I'm Daniel. I have been a contractor for a lot of years and still am, and I'm also the technical director here at RW. This is me reacting to online hardwood flooring posts that I've never seen before. All right, let's take a look at the pictures. Those are hardwood floor dents. Dents, scratches, dents. Our hardwood floors are maple. Yep, that figures. I've noticed everything that falls on them leaves a small dent or scratch. Even really light objects like a TV remote or plastic child's toy. I've taken note of friends' hardwood floors and engineered floors, and they don't have nearly the same number of dents and scratches. Even when I go to the store and use an object to whack on the engineered hardwood display, it doesn't show any damage. I want a video of that. I want a video of somebody walking into a retail showroom and hitting the sample boards. And I'd love to see a close-up of the salesperson's face when the homeowner's doing that. A few things to note in the pictures. In the first picture, the dents seem to show some sort of top layer that looks like a film. Yes. There is a top layer on top of your floor. There should be a top layer on top of everybody's floor. In the second picture, very shallow scratches show as white against that top film. In the third picture, even the legs of the couch leave indents. And the fourth picture is general dents from small objects being dropped. I can hit my phone's OtterBox case against the floor and it'll dent. Does this make sense? Should hardwood damage so easily? Could there be a process the manufacturer missed which cures the wood and makes it more damage resistant? Which flooring type is the most resistant to dents and scratches and can take the most abuse? Be nice, we love our floors. Doesn't sound like it. Just wondering why they're so easy to dent and scratch. When you talk about damage or wear, durability of a floor, the conditions that that floor is exposed to on the job site are typically more important or have more bearing on how long that floor is going to last than the type of wood or manufacturing process or top coat, generally speaking. They both obviously influence it, but like there's going to be a big difference in terms of how a floor looks if it goes into a house with 4 kids and a dog and craziness as opposed to an elderly couple's house that takes their shoes off at the front door. Case in point, my house. I have sanded and finished my floor for various reasons 3 times now, but the last time that I sanded and finished my floor was almost exactly 1 year ago, and it looks completely trashed right now. And the reason why it looks like an old worn floor is my soon-to-be 3-year-old tornado that goes across the floor. Whenever I get home from work, he has his toys or his bike or whatever, and he is walking across the floor just going bang, 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 or he's got something heavy on some sort of hard object that he's sliding across the floor, right? And so my floor has scratches generally all over it. I mean, I wish my floor looked better, but I'm also not disappointed because I have enough experience with floors that I know how they're gonna wear given exposure to that kind of a thing. So specifically with these issues that this homeowner is talking about. So they have a maple floor, which tends to be one of the harder species of wood. There's a caveat there. When you talk about denting in a wood floor, there's really nothing about the manufacturing process that would cause one floor to dent easier than another, if you're talking about like the same floor. The reason a floor dents is because enough pressure is applied to that to crush the wood grain. And every different species of wood has a different density to it. That's more a feature of the type of wood that you're picking. So if you pick a softer wood, it's obviously gonna indent easier. If you pick a harder wood, it's gonna dent it's not going to dent as easily. Here they have maple. The thing with maple is there's a lot of different kinds of maple. So there are softer species of maple and there are harder species of maple. So like hard maple is what gets used in bowling alleys and on gym floors and stuff. It's pretty hard. There are also softer species of maple. I'm guessing they probably have a softer species of maple, but that's not anything having to do with the, you know, quote unquote quality or manufacturing of the floor, that's just the, that's just a feature of wood and the type of wood that you choose. And it's also a feature of what you're doing. You know, if you're walking across and you're hitting it, or your child's hitting it, even with a plastic toy, you can certainly dent the wood. Official way to measure, I guess, hardness in wood is called the Janka scale, so Janka. You can look that up online, and it's just a measurement of the hardness of wood. It's actually a measurement of how much pressure it takes to drive a metal ball into that wood, and it's kind of just an average across that species of wood. Domestically here in the States, oak is kind of the, I guess I would call it the standard because it's the most common floor out there, so it's kind of the dividing line in my mind between the harder species of wood and the softer species of wood. There is one feature about the type of floor that might affect denting, and that's engineered versus solid. The reason why that's important, an engineered floor is made by putting a veneer on top of a core or oftentimes a different species of wood. So on some engineered floors that have a very thin top wear layer and a core below that, you can have more denting than would be expected for that species of wood. Because, say for instance, you have a hard maple like this, or maple, and let's just say it's a hard maple, you only have like 1.5 millimeters or 2 millimeter thickness of that hard species of wood that is now on top of a softer species of wood, a softer, often less expensive species of wood underneath it. It's a solid floor. So that's solid all the way through. So that, I mean, that's just a feature of the type of wood. So that's probably a softer species of maple. The question is not if the finish on top of your wood will scratch, it's when it will scratch and how visible that will be. So there are different things that influence that. I mean, obviously, what's going on top of the floor to cause a scratch or not cause a scratch. The other thing I see here is they've got a very dark floor, and some floor finishes on top of the floor will turn white. They just powder whenever they get scratched. Those are easier to fix or at least hide because you can blend them in. You can take things like Tibet almond stick or some sort of natural oil, and you can oftentimes put it over a scratch and hide it. I always lick my finger and wipe it on a little bit of the scratch, and if it disappears, that tells me the scratch is at the top of the seal coat and it can at least be hidden. So, but yeah, scratches like this, like the real bold white one, that probably just happened because something very sharp got drug across the finish and literally just tore that finish up. The white chips, that's just something, there's an indentation, and that's something that looks to me like you had something very sharp that hit the floor, like a high heel or a nail sticking out of a shoe or something, and that just dented the wood and chipped the finish. Let's see the comments. Reddit to the rescue. The homeowner posts the link for their floor, and that person says, "Oh wow, that website looks sketchy AF. I'm pretty sure you got scammed." I don't think you got scammed. You sure that's hardwood? I'm pretty sure that is hardwood. Anybody who buys a product and expects it to do a certain thing that it's not designed to or capable of doing is going to be disappointed. I mean, it's happened to literally everybody. It's happened to me for sure. Dented hardwood, what are my options? I tried an iron to lift it, but no luck. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is a dented floor, all right. What in the world happened there? That's a pretty bold dent in the wood, and I am going to go out on a limb here and say that is engineered hardwood, because engineered wood, it has that softer core underneath the top, which doesn't matter if the top is sufficiently thick, but the thinner the top gets, the more it does matter. Wow. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened on that, but something hit that floor really hard. Let's see what the homeowner said. They tried an iron. When you said you tried an iron, I assume you use a wet cloth. That's right. It's a steam which expands the wood. The iron trick is like putting a wet cloth over wood. If you have wood with a dent in it, sometimes you can put a wet cloth over the wood and then take a hot iron and put that on top, and it will force steam down into the wood, and moisture expands wood. And so sometimes if you have a dent that's not severe enough, the moisture will go down into the wood and it'll pop it back out and it'll be fine. But because it looks like Atlas body slammed this floor, I don't think that's coming out. And my guess is also that's probably an engineered floor. So you're dealing with like multiple layers of different species of wood that have all been crushed in. And I just don't think you're gonna force enough moisture down in there to really pop that out, unfortunately. But yeah, with small things, sometimes you can force some steam in and pop it out. Yeah, I tried ironing with a wet towel, although only a couple times. Does it take more tries? Maybe I need to soak it more. I think a time machine is going to help you a lot more.
Circuits on, flux capacitor, fluxing, engine running.
Than more wet cloths and a hotter iron. You used a steam iron, but you need to allow the water to enter the pores, and you have poly coating it over the wood. So you need to sand that back. And yeah, so that person saying that it's the coating on top preventing the water from the iron from going in, I think you're telling that person to sand that spot off, and they're still going to be disappointed, because I do not think water is going to get that to pop out. That's maybe if it was smaller. So I think you're creating another problem, so that this OP is going to get on again and show a picture of the spot they sanded in their floor and ask, how in the world can I repair this to look at like the rest of my floor? How long should I let the water soak in? I mean, you could try breaking a pipe in your kitchen and just flooding the floor and seeing if that works. Rug time. There, that's the answer right there. Buy a rug. So, I mean, the most ideal thing when you have like one-off damage like that is just do a board replacement, and hopefully you have that extra material. So if you're getting a floor, I would recommend buying a couple extra boxes of attic stock and having them in case you ever drop a frying pan. I actually did a video, it's on our channel, showing how to do a single board replacement, how to cut a wood board out of a floor and put a new one in. This floor has a beveled edge, so that would be very possible if they had the same product somewhere as backstock. Let's see here. All right, that is somebody who sanded through their floor down to raw wood, but the floor looks absolutely awful as it is. And it looks like an orange peel. It looks like the peel of an orange. Well, they've got a piece of tape there, and that piece of tape has stain on it. So I think this is, maybe they're trying to repair some boards to look like maybe they put those boards in the doorway and they're trying to stain them to look like the rest of the floor. This looks like either a bad finish job or they're applying some sort of product with a roller to it, like a polish or an oil or something. But they sanded out these two spots, and I'm gonna guess the question is about those two spots that got sanded out, not the general look of the floor. So let's see what they said. Tried fixing two spots in my hardwood floor. Big mistake, help. Let's see what the OP said in the comments. I am refinishing a little area of wood in the entryway to my new office. Okay, so it's just that's why there's the tape there with the stain on it. I have 3 coats of oil-based polyurethane down. I know I did not apply enough on the last coat because the texture looks so pebbled. Probably yes. If it's oil-based and it's turning out orange peel texture like that, then you did not put enough down, or you just put it down super inconsistently. Then I saw in 2 spots that the yellow color of the original wood was visible, probably because the poly was too thin in those spots, and I sanded too hard in those spots between the coats. So I figured easy peasy, I can just sand down, stain again, recoat the spots. Big mistake. I sanded using 150 grit, 100 grit, then 60 grit. While the wood appears down to the original level, the stain coloring, I think they got the grits wrong. So usually you sand from like lower grits to higher grits. And so I think hopefully you just wrote that down backwards. Down to the original level, and the stain is not colored in the same way at all. Is not coloring in the same way at all. It doesn't even look like there's stain on those spots. So, okay, but I believe you, it's not coloring at all the same way. How do I save myself here? Do I need to sand much harder all around it to get a much larger area to be restained? I'm a little confused on what exactly happened on this one. I can kind of guess at it. You were doing a couple boards in your doorway. You had a couple spots you saw that needed to be repaired. You hand sanded those down, and now they stick out to you because the stain will not blend back into those spots. It is very hard in general to take just like a circular spot and restain that to blend in without seeing that circle. You will spend more time usually trying to get that to blend in and look the same than if you just sanded an area. In this case, an area would look like probably whole boards. So you could tape off along the border of your boards. You could scrape and sand out just those boards and then restain the whole board. That's gonna be a faster way to get that to blend in than just trying to sand a small spot. Sometimes you can do what's called chasing the grain, which is if you have the grain along a board, like the wood grain, you scrape and follow that wood grain, and you scrape that out. Like if the grain kind of swoops to the edge of the board, you would scrape along and go to the edge of the board, and then you would restain, and your stain would blend because the borders of where you stained are ringed by wood grain that kind of breaks up the pattern a little bit. Doorway, there are two boards just straddling that doorway. It'd be easy to just scrape all the way across, take that all the way back to bare wood, and the board that's just out of the doorway. Also, this floor has a beveled edge too, so you could scrape and that next board and then tape off along the border of the boards and then just restain whole boards. And once you restain the whole board, even if it's not the exact shade, as long as it's close, just the way the eyes work, if you have a border around a board, just looks like the board is a slightly different color than the board next to it, which is kind of normal in a wood floor. Getting boards to stain the same is not as easy as just using the exact same stain. There are multiple factors that affect how that stain takes to the wood and the level of or the amount of stain that gets absorbed into the piece of wood. And so the final grit that you sand the floor to is one of those factors. So like if I sand a board down to and finish at 100 grit, or if I sand and finish at 150 grit, those, even if it's the exact same board, it would look different at 150 grit than 100 grit. Generally, the coarser the sandpaper that you end at, the more color that's going to take to the board, right? Because if you zoom in on a microscopic level, you've got way bigger like scratches, like peaks and valleys of scratches from the sandpaper. So you're going to have more stain get down in there and absorb into the wood. So as you increase the final grit that you're finishing your sanding at, you also decrease the color intensity of that stain. You can also have what's called water popping, which is just wetting wood and letting it dry again. That will increase the amount of, that'll open up the pores of the wood. It'll increase the amount of stain that takes into the wood. You know, just because you got the exact same stain color that you used on previous boards does not mean you're going to get the exact same color when you apply it, unless you do everything the exact same, the way you sand it and final it, whether you water pop it, how you apply it. Not so much here, but like buffer versus rag on, rag off, that kind of a thing. So, but yeah, this guy's not screwed at all. They can very easily scrape out and sand those boards and repair it and move on. Nothing else was applied. It was an old wood with existing 10-year-old poly finish, lots of scratches. I sanded down using 60, 80, 100 grit pads on a random orbital sander, then applied the initial stain with a bristle brush. The new poly used was Varathane floor finish semi-gloss. I cleared it. Okay, So it looks like maybe they're doing more than the doorway, and that makes sense. A lot of DIYers will go rent a square buff, and they will try to just sand a floor with a square buff. A square buff will not break through and strip everything off the surface of a floor that needs to be stripped off in order to start from scratch with a blank canvas. Don't try and use a square buff. Hire a floor professional. What it looks like happened in a large part here is they tried to square buff it. They probably didn't get everything off. Applied stain on top of the old poly that didn't get all stripped off of the floor. And that stain probably didn't dry because it didn't penetrate into the wood as much. And then they tried to put poly over the top of that, and that's why it all looks inconsistent. There's a lot going on with that one, even though they only ask about the 2 little repairs. All right, let's look at this one. Whoa, whoa. Hello. I'm not gonna sleep for a while after this. Thanks, marketing team, keeping me up at night. I've been hearing clicking sounds in my room for months, and I thought I was going crazy. Today I was replacing my bed frame and my toes cracked through the flooring. Needless to say, I have a termite infestation. Here are 2 videos of the termites clicking away. Okay. That's not even real wood. That's like that looks like either a laminate floor or a vinyl floor, and they have termites below that. Oh, that video makes me uncomfortable. That video makes me uncomfortable because it makes me think of bot flies. If you want to not have a good day, Google bot flies. Termites are the bot flies of hardwood floors. So this post does not need my expertise. It doesn't really even need anybody's expertise. It's just a random homeowner that's like, hey, yo, I heard clicking, termites. Here's a video of termites in my floor. Thank you, random stranger, for informing all of us that if we spend days hearing clicking in our room, we may just want to buy a new house and burn the old one down. I've got to get the marketing team back for making me watch that. You can borrow my flamethrower if you like. Yeah, Hans, get the flamethrower. If you have termites, call an exterminator. Don't call me, don't call your hardwood flooring professional until after the termites have been killed, please. This has been me reacting to online hardwood flooring posts on Reddit. Don't forget to like and subscribe.